Here's two questions about the Anunnaki from Taba. Alex, how can the reptilian, i.e. different species, Anunnaki, interbreed with humans? And Mason asks Alex, aren't the Anunnaki reptilians? And also Mark asks, are there any real pictures of ETs stroke reptilians, photos, maybe in a book somewhere? So there's a little a cluster of Anunnaki questions.
Okay, the Anunnaki were two tribes. The Orion group, which is human and reptilian, and then we have a group from Sirius B, okay, which were human. The tribes that came together were done through a marriage. So there has been a lot of interbreeding between different races. In particular, in Orion, which is an enormous star system, there are many, many different races and many different cultures. And there are some races that can't interbreed at all because physically it's not a possibility. But with some tribes, there is interbreeding. And some of those are human and reptilian. So that's how it's done. It's gone on like that for years. There are also many races who are geneticists, and they have spliced particular races' genetics together, especially if one of their races was dying for whatever reason, and let's say it was a disease that was killing them off, and they couldn't be rectified by any other way than a gene splice of another type of race that was stronger. They would have done that to see how it would work, and in many cases it has worked, where the race became stronger, it began to thrive through these other genetics. It just reinforced or re-enhanced the genetics they already had. Here in this country, or here on this planet, there is a great deal of talk about that in creating super soldiers. This is exactly the same kind of a concept, where they add different genetics to us to see what they're going to do to enhance. We're babies at this, but other races have been doing this for thousands and thousands, millions of years. For example, most of the life on this planet has come from someplace else. Dolphins, whales, birds, animals. They have come from different environments, and genetically they had to be altered in order to live on this planet. I mean, do you think that one cell created every insect, every mammal, every amphibian, every fowl on this planet? No, it didn't happen that way. Not at all. The diversity of life on Earth was created and done on purpose. And many of those critters were altered in order to be able to live here. Okay, their genetics were altered so they could be here. Some of them come from methane planets, some from helium planets, some come from environments we couldn't even possibly imagine. Okay, but they genetically had to be altered to be put here to see if they could survive. You know, Earth is a garden, a zoo, literally. And I've talked about this in the past as well.
A couple of questions about this. And it's connected with the idea of the Earth being, quote, a prison planet, or a planet that has been used to imprison people with. You know, there's a very significant difference. You know, one implies that it's just a place and it was quarantined, so people, you know, beings have been thrown down here to get stuck into the quarantine just because it's convenient, like a hole that people can be thrown into, or that it was originally designed as a prison planet, and that's the whole purpose of of life on Earth, but I don't really subscribe to that personally. What's the A's opinion, and what's your feeling about it?
Okay, that's a great question, and this is probably a great opportunity to sweep away a lot of bullshit or nonsense. Okay? No, the Earth was never designed to be a prison planet. Okay? In fact, during Atlantis, it was basically a galactic open port. There were many different races here. They were coming and going. There was an enormous amount of sharing of knowledge, of technology that was going on here. There was a thriving, advanced civilization on the planet at the time. And until someone picked a war with the Plagiarians, aka Pleiadians, or whatever they're calling themselves this month, that's when everything changed. And if it weren't for the war, if it weren't for the meteors and the comets, or the asteroids that were thrown at planet Earth, which caused it to tilt on its axis, a lot of things would have been different. It would have been a very different outcome and scenario. But that's in the past. There's nothing we can do about that now. All we can do is deal with what we have going forward from this point. Okay?
Several months ago, you spoke about a veil, grid, or net going down. Can you speak more about this grid's purpose and the results of dropping this net? How was it, and how was it put into place?
God, I thought we already covered that, but I'll cover it again. Okay.
Yeah, it's like sort of a bit more detail, you know, who put it there and what it was put there for and things.
The regressives put it there. It was put up there by the Orion group specifically. And basically what it did is it stopped. It created a field of energy, of a radio wave, for lack of a better word, where cosmic energy, cosmic knowledge would not penetrate the Earth's planet. We could send information out, garbage out, but nothing would come back in. Okay, that's what its purpose was.
Okay.
And, you know, understand, stars, when ET races communicate with each other across the universe or a galaxy, that information is sent using stars. Okay? Stars transmit an enormous amount of information, knowledge, and frequency. Okay? There is some wisdom to sun worshippers. There really is. Okay? We made fun of them, but there was some knowledge to it. And if you go back to the ancient civilizations that held a pretty high level of consciousness, they were all star worshippers. Okay? A lot of data and information comes from stars. None of that was actually reaching us except for radiation. Okay? And you know, they're a very sophisticated race. They knew exactly how to filter the knowledge but allow all the other stuff to come in. Okay? That would not benefit us. So, the benevolence, what is happening, or what was happening, I should say, is that they would come in with their ships, whether it be motherships or not, knowing that they would not be attacked. What they would do is they would park them just inside the net, the field, okay, and they would burn holes in it. And they would know that as soon as that hole was built, it would take so many weeks for that net to refill. And what they did was they just burned it out. They burned that field out by putting ships inside of it and burning all these holes, and there was no way that it could eventually replenish itself. And then what they did was the satellites that were creating this field were just taken out, literally just pulled out of the atmosphere. So they no longer exist. They're just not up there. There's no more hardware up there to even work. They just took it all out. And now what you're seeing is this flood of information, of knowledge, of spiritual essence hitting the planet. And everybody's getting it, whether they're bricks or not. Okay, they're all getting this frequency. And people are starting to react to it. They're starting to absorb it, to ask questions that they wouldn't ask 10 years ago, to rethink the way that they see things now that was impossible 10 years ago. Okay, and we all know people like that. Well, this is this frequency, okay? And we are also getting bombarded with knowledge, spiritual knowledge that is very subtle, but that we are all getting on a soul level, okay, an energetic level. It's an amazing time, and it's all positive. We just have to get rid of some pockets of no-gooders that are still here, and that's happening. But you know, it has to happen in such a way that they, you see, when you have regressive groups that are very, very negative, that are just empowered by negative field, the first thing they do is they put innocence between them and the light. It's the very first thing they do. And then what they do is they threaten the light with harming the innocence. Okay? So that if anything happens, it's on the head of the innocence. This is how they work it. Okay? By the innocent ones, which would be most of humanity. So, and I've said this many, many years ago, that, you know, we're being held hostage on our own planet, and no one has a clue. Okay, well, that's pretty much what's happening. But when humanity is evolving and changing its own field from negative to positive, which is what was happening, their grip on humanity is lessening and lessening to the point where they are now beginning to separate from humanity. Their field is causing them to separate away from humanity. And when it gets to a specific place, okay, they will not be able to touch us because our field will be so positive. And that's when the benevolents are going to come in and just, you're done. That's how it has to happen. And it's taking a while. Okay? But when humanity reaches a certain point of frequency and the regressives no longer have any ability to harm us, they're going to come in and take it. They're going to take it and whack them. That's how this is going to work. This is how it's always worked.
So this is a bit like one of those old-fashioned flash guns that you hear this, and it builds up, and then there comes a point when you can take the photo. So when the Earth people's energy is high enough, they're not going to be supporting the regressives because with
negative
illusion. Yeah. So one last question, one last connection with this is: are these satellites the Black Knight satellites?
No.
No, that's something different. Okay.